Hey, hobby and development fans, it's great to see you again. I'm Tyler, and in this episode, we're painting Cabanda. This is going to be a two-part series, and I hope you're ready for it. It's good to be back. I've taken a little bit of a break from making painting videos to start a couple other companies and, just vibe. I'm glad to be back, and painting Cabanda is definitely a really cool kickoff to the new and improved hobby and development channel. We've got better cameras, better audio, better editing. I actually do video editing now full time. So from where this channel has started to where it's come now, I hope you find has been worth the wait in between videos. So with that being said, welcome to a hobby and development and enjoy the episode. So to start out, the actual skin of the model is going to be painted with Games Workshop Khorne Red. I did spray the entire model with an undercoat of Chaos Black spray just to get started. So we're going to hit it with Khorne Red, and that's going to be a pretty nice base for Cabanda. So I'm not going to show you the entire video in real time. It actually did take me about a month, and I think I have like 10 hours of footage while I was actually painting this model. So we're going to cut out some of the repetitiveness, and we're just going to get into the juicy parts. But I really thought that this Khorne Red went on really well, and it did. It goes on bright, but it does darken up a little bit, and it does make a really fantastic undercoat for the model. We are going to go a little brighter later, but we're just going to get this down first. This is quite a large model. I didn't put it on the base because I wanted to be able to have access to the underneath of the model. So I do put it on the base after this entire process is finished. In this two-part series, we're talking painting Cabanda and his wings, but we're not going to do the base. I figured you could probably do the base on your own. If you do want to see me do bases, feel free to comment, and I can always, that's not too big of a problem to also throw in the base there. That tail, man, it just reminds me of like a giant salamander lizard. I think it's just super cool, and the texturing on this model is amazing. It was a Forge World resin model, so the detail on Forge World resin is just always so nice. We're gonna go back with Corvus Black, and we're gonna do a couple of the areas that just didn't get a full coat of the spray primer. You could, of course, also use a Baden Black if you like, but I do like to vary the texture a little bit, and one way to vary the texture is by using just a different shade of black, and it will make the armor look like it's worn in different areas. A big theme on this model is actually the gold, so we're using Retributor armor for all of the gold. There's a lot on the model, and you'll see that I go back and forth. I just forget a couple areas, I overlook it, so we go back and forth, and over time you'll see that all of the gold trim just really starts to pop, and then we're going to go back and tone that down in a little bit as well with some shading. I really do like all of the gold areas, but I do mix it up with Balthasar gold as well, which is kind of more of a brassy feeling. I don't want an entire model with nothing but gold trims, so we're gonna mix it up. He's gonna have some gold here and a little bit of brass here, and it's really gonna make the model just not so monochromatic, if that makes sense. Back to the Retributor armor, continuing on that journey of painting gold. If you don't like working with metal paints, this is definitely not a model for you. There's a lot of it on there. He's a big boy. Back to the Balthasar gold. And man, I didn't realize it until I started recording the audio for this, but yeah, I was sick this week and I can feel it in my voice as I'm doing this voiceover. Back to the black, we're just tidying up some of the areas that, you know, as we spill when we're going back and forth with the gold. You know, it gets on the black, so we're gonna tidy it back up with the Corvus black as we go. You could wait till the end to do that, but I like to do it as we go. That way I don't forget any areas. You can see I did forget originally to put 2 of the metal spikes on his right-hand gauntlet, so I did add those, and I just painted them with a simple base coat. Lead Belcher goes on all of the metal places, like the spikes and his axe. Later we will put Lead Belcher on that big whip. Can't forget the chainmail. Definitely got to hit the chainmail. We're going to go in with Administratum Gray, and we're actually going to use that on the horns of the model, and we're going to use it on all of the little spikes. If you look on the model, you notice he's got like spikes that stick up through his skin there. You can see it on the red, and he's also got some spikes along his spine, so we do eventually go through and hit those with that same color. Off to Khorne red again, and on this time, instead of doing leather on the handle here, we're actually going to do it with red, and then we're just going to shade it a little differently down the line. Wraithbone is the contrast undercoat, and we use that on all of the future leather areas on the model. I am going to pause real quick, guys, and say that I really hope you enjoy my painting videos. Painting is my passion. And if you really want to support me, I encourage you to go ahead and smash that subscribe button, hit the bell, tell all your friends about it, and be patient, as it does take a little bit of time in between episodes for me to find my mojo and for me to get a video painted and edited, but I appreciate. Leave a comment in the description below of what you'd like to see me paint next, and I've got a lot of stuff in my shelf of shame, so we'll pull out some of the things that I have. I've got orcs, I've got Tau, I've got demons, and I'm painting some guard stuff for one of my friends. Thanks for letting me interrupt, but we're going to get back into painting Kabanda. We're going to start out with Dawnstone on his hooves, and then actually the last step of this, we're going to shade it. I put my grubby little fingers all over his hooves, so I'm not super worried about it. We're going to go back in and finish that off later. Uthwan Gray on the horns. We're just going to do a coat there again, and this is going to give it a little bit of depth. Karabug Crimson, I'm probably butchering that, but that goes on his skin, and that's going to give us some depth when we go to add a layer on afterwards. Make sure that you get every nook and cranny, and don't be afraid to let it pool up in some of those crevices. Really add some nice shading. Look at that tail, y'all. All right, Agrax Earthshade is our first step, and that's going to go on all of the gold in the brass areas. All right, next we're taking Nuln Oil. The Nuln Oil is going on all of the metallics that are silver. So this part right here is actually really important, so I want to stop the video and talk about what's going on. So I'm taking some medium and I'm mixing that in with the Nuln Oil. and that's going to thin the null oil out so it's not so strong. Now, we're going to take this in a couple of coats over the horns, and as we go, you're going to apply a new layer in a smaller area down the horn, and that's going to give us a gradient effect on the horn. This requires a little bit of patience. You're going to have to apply multiple really thin coats on this to get the desired effect. All right, next is contrast paint. This is snakebite leather going on all of the straps. Make sure that you get that really good, and don't be afraid to go back in for the couple of extra coats. One thing that I noticed with contrast paints is that the cohesion in the paint will actually pull it apart in areas, and you'll notice some undercoat showing, so make sure you really get in there. Agrax Earthshade, once the null oil is dry, is going to go over all of the silver metal areas, and that's going to give it a grungy, dirty appearance. And it'll look worn and more natural. So we're not just going to do null oil, it's null oil and then Agrax Earthshade. We're also going to put null oil in his hair, and that's going to give a little bit of depth to the hair and make it a little darker and more shadowier. Lead Belcher, like I said, is going on a lot of the model, including the whip. So at this point, I went through and I did the whip. This was a really painstaking process because of all of the twists in it. Now we actually take Agrax Earthshade. We're not going to do null oil, and you'll see because later we're going to apply a technical paint to the whip. So just Agrax Earthshade to add depth to the whip this time. Alright, now we're taking Rust Gray, and we're going to highlight all of the hair. Now remember, there is hair on his feet, and I do forget that, but we go back in later and do it. But you're just going to do an edge highlight on all the raised portions of his hair, and that's going to add some texture. There is a lot of detail in the hair because it's a resin cast, so definitely make sure to take your time, and there is a lot of strands to get. Ulthuan Gray. We're actually going to use this now, and we're going to apply the same process that we did to the hair, but on all of the raised parts of the horns. Abaddon Black into the eyes. Evil Sun's Scarlet. This is the paint that we're going to use to layer now that we've done the red undercoat and we've let the shade dry. I start off with his face, but I go back in later and do the rest of the skin. You're actually going to take just a dollop of Flesh Gets Yellow and just speck the eyes, and that's going to give it, a nice little alive effect, if you will. Alright, Sigmarite is going to be dry brushed over the gold and brass areas of the model. If you guessed Necron Compound was going to be painted over the silver areas of the model, you would be correct. Grab your paints and let's get started. Alright, we're going to take Scrag Brown in a edge highlight to all of the leather areas to just make those pop a little bit. Stormhost Silver. This is the most tedious part of the model, painting all of the rivets with Stormhost Silver. Alright, so this is where we layer the entire skin with Evil Sun Scarlet. This is a tedious process as well. Make sure that you leave some of the previous paint showing in the shadows and really sell the look of the depth on the skin. This is the part that really pulls the entire model together. Fenrisian Gray is what we're going to use to edge highlight the black armor bits. Make sure you don't just do an edge highlight, make sure that you edge highlight the battle damage on the model as well. Alright, this is a really cool technical paint. Nicola Oxide? Anyways, you're going to paint that all over the whip, and then you're actually going to wipe it away with a paper towel, and it'll leave the oxidation effect in some of the nooks and crannies, and it'll make it look old and weathered. I really like this paint. One of my favorites. Definitely do it in segments. The paint does kind of get sticky and tacky and dry rather quickly. So if you do it in segments, you won't have to worry about it. All right, and then the last step here is we're going to use Nuln Oil on his foot hooves, if you will, and then this model's done. This is the end of part 1 of painting Kabanda. In part 2, we're going to be taking a look at his wings, which are arguably my favorite part of the entire model. I hope you enjoyed part 1. Definitely subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell button, do all the things, and I'll see you on the next episode.